Yeah. So how do you like it there?
Sorry about that.
Oh,
I love it. I've been up here for 28 years in this area.
that's a while.
Yeah.
Where'd you live before then?
Los Angeles, Hollywood.
Uh-huh. Are you an actor?
No, I'm a musician. I play drums in various bands and have a day job also. But yeah, that's why I was in LA for the most part. I mean, I grew up there, but that's when I moved up here in '92.
Right. Does that mean that you put it into the drummage?
No, I still play drums regularly. I have a set here at the house that I play every day, and then I play in a couple of local bands. You know, mainly for fun, to keep my chops sharp.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. I've got a couple of good friends. It seems like no matter where I live, I always pick one musician to have be my bestest friend.
Right on.
Yeah. Yeah. One of them, he's a drummer when he's in a band, just because he found out that long ago that it's harder to find a drummer than it is a guitarist.
Yeah, weird.
Yeah. So let's rock on this, and we'll just kind of float. Actually, I guess I should probably give you some background. Manalizing is a podcast intended for men, and the idea is that when women have a problem, they've got 30 girlfriends to go talk to. When men have a problem, we talk to nobody. We usually don't have anybody to talk to. Even if we did, we're not going to go talk to that guy because that seems not manly. We don't have that kind of relationship. Whatever it is, we generally just keep it in. And as a result, the suicide rate is much higher. Alcoholism is much higher. Relationships suffer, et cetera, et cetera. So excuse me. So we have, and then we do things that get us labeled as being toxic men. And I think the genesis for all of that is that we just don't talk. And in the military world, you can't talk. You're not only is it difficult, but you're not allowed to talk about your PTSD type stuff. And so in my world, there's a guy that my son knew pretty well. He owned a very successful gun store, and he hung himself just a couple of weeks ago. And nobody knows why. It wasn't money. He had plenty of money. So anyway, the idea is that we're intending to help men generally and their wives through better relationships, just by pointing out that men are not alone in all of our crap that we keep to ourselves. So I'll ask you to be as vulnerable as you're willing to be. I don't know if you're married, but don't destroy your marriage. But if you've got an ex, then I'm sure there's lots of good stories.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me about you. What do you do for a living?
Okay. My job is I sell janitorial supplies.
Uh-huh.
I've been with the same company for 19 years.
Okay.
I got into sales kind of by default. I'm a good communicator. I'm good with people, and I fell into this job, and it turned out that I was good at it. So I've just stuck with it, and it's served me well.
Well, good. What is it about? What is it about selling janitorial supplies that you like? Is it the being out all the time? What is it that is most rewarding to you?
Well, I mean, the money doesn't suck,
Uh-huh.
but I really don't. I mean, on my business card says sales associate on it, and I don't feel like I'm selling anything. I never have with this company. I feel like I'm helping people. I go to school districts or hospitals or different facilities, and I feel like I'm solving problems for them. So I feel like I'm helping, like I'm doing good, and so that's the main thing I like about it. I really do. As far as the flexibility of being a sales rep, that's great. With the 13-year-old daughter, I could take her to whatever event she needs to go to or get her out of school or whatever. I'm the driver for all the kids. And anything else I have in life, the flexibility helps.
You got a
Don't mind.
13-year-old daughter. You have any other kids?
Yeah, I do. I have a stepson from my first wife who's 25, and she came with him. So he had a dad, but his dad never participated in his life. So I was married to her or in a relationship with her for about 7 years, from my sons from about 2 to maybe 7 or 8. I was married to her for only 2 years of that, and that went south. But I had a conversation with the boy, and I said, "Look, man, I'm divorcing your mom, but I'm not divorcing you. So if you still want me in your life, I will be 100%." And he said, "Well, you're my dad, so yeah." So he's 25 now, and he's doing very well. He's a good kid, and I have a 41-year-old daughter from the way back, and she's very successful and doing well in Los Angeles also. So yeah, kind of
41.
spread them out a little bit.
You did spread them out. I'm thinking 41, 25, and 13. You said, yeah, that's a spread. You, I don't think I'm man enough to do a spread like that.
Well, absolutely none of it was planned. The first one was, oops, I wanted to marry the first wife, and part of that package was my son, and I gladly took that. And then when my daughter's mother became pregnant, that was a surprise also. So
Yeah.
no planning, but definitely making the best out of all of it.
Yeah. So tell me about your daughter, the 13-year-old. What's she like?
Well, she's a force of nature, that's for sure. She's intelligent. She's communicative. She's super bright. She's a self-starter. She's very social. She has a very solid friend network. And she's a really good kid. She's beautiful. It's all get up. She's a gorgeous young lady, and yeah, she's making her dad proud. So she's a really good kid.
That's awesome. So I tell me a little bit about what it was like for you when you were her age, 13.
Well, let's see. So 13 is 8th grade for most of us, right? So for me, I was already experimenting with illicit substances down in Los Angeles. I was already drinking alcohol. My family life was a challenge. I had older brothers and sisters that were doing the same things, and there's a lot of chaos in the house. My mom did the best she could. My dad did the best he could, but they were alcoholics also. So it was a challenge. So for me, I just hid in my room and played drums all the time. That's kind of was my outlet. I don't remember much about school. Like, I think I have one friend from that time that is still in my life, and that's only via Facebook mostly. But it was chaos for sure.
So do you blame your parents for your and your brothers and sisters' alcohol issues?
No, none of those people ever poured a drink down my throat. No, that was we all had our own individual demons, and if anything, the way my parents were when they got drunk would be a reason to not drink alcohol. They were, once they started drinking, it was, it was hell at the house. But like most of us that are alcoholics, when we start drinking, we're going to keep drinking regardless of the circumstances. You don't have to have a challenging home life to become an alcoholic, or you could have the best, Brady Bunch life ever and still become an alcoholic if you're
Right.
predisposed to that.
Does that mean that you're an alcoholic?
Oh, totally. Yeah, absolutely.
How long have you been an alcoholic?
Well, I've been an alcoholic probably from the age of 14 on. I've been a sober alcoholic since 1991. So
Dang, 30 years.
31.
Got to get that extra year, and you've earned it.
Well, I just turned 31 in September. So yeah, I mean, it's like, it's still fresh and a big deal, right?
Yeah, and I would have pegged you for 33. So yeah, that's a long time to be on the wagon. Yeah, just to be sober. That's how difficult has that been? What are the tell me a story about a one of those moments where you were like, I gotta have a drink, and then you either succeeded or failed. Tell me about one of those moments.
Well, I had a lot of those moments in the 80s where, just barely getting, keeping from being arrested, or just barely escaping trouble. There's a lot of instances where I could have used that as a reason to maybe look at my addictive behavior, but I never did. I mean, it was always, I was blamed something or someone else for my issues when I was drinking. But the last instance, which is the important one, is that, I was back home at 30 years old, probably moved there when I was 29 to my mom's house, where I grew up. And I just continued to drinking. And, I had all the friends around me were just basically losers like me, just, still living at their parents' house and still drinking, and what had odd jobs or whatever, nothing successful. But, my mom came into my bedroom, which was the same bedroom that I, grew up in. And she just said something like, you didn't turn out like I thought you'd turn out, and that was, well, I've heard that though, you hear that your whole life, oh, you have so much potential, that's just what we hear, it's like, and it doesn't mean anything, because I need a drink. But it meant something that night. And so I just came out of my mouth, like, I don't even know why I said it, Garth, but it came out like, well, if you go buy me some beer, I'll go to AA tomorrow. Like, just out of nowhere. And keep in mind, like, I had warrants out for DUIs and other things with the court. I was definitely, if I got pulled over, I was going to get, I was going to get free room and board,
Yeah.
So like my mom, she went and got some beer and brought it back in the room, brought it back in the house, and she threw it in the bedroom. And she goes, "Here's your beer, asshole." And I was like, I didn't remember at that point. I don't remember telling her that. But the next day, which was September 22nd, 1991, that Sunday, I went to an AA meeting, and I called up the central office of Alcoholics Anonymous, and they told me where a meeting was, and I went. And I've never had a drink since. That was it. I don't know what happened at that meeting, because I might have still been a little loopy, but I just decided to go to meetings. And many of us, there's many sober alcoholic men, and in Alcoholics Anonymous, you have to do certain things. You want to work your steps and get a sponsor, do all the things that encompass that program. And I just decided to do them. Like, I didn't have any, like, I'm going to stay sober forever, none of that crap. I just thought I'd try it out. I'm going to try it out. And, like, I'm still trying it out. It seems to be working. I got a pretty good life because of that.
31 years later, you're still trying it out. I think it's ironic that that your mom throwing beer at you and saying, "Here's your beer, asshole," was the turning point.
Crazy. Yeah, everybody has a different story. In AA, you have like what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. The what it was like is fairly common. We're all drunken assholes and make a bunch of wreckage in our past and hurt people and all that. And then for me, what happened was that, my mom throwing that beer in the room, and by this time she'd quit drinking. She just stopped on her own. So she just, that happened, and I I don't really know. I just went to a meeting and that was it. So it's pretty, I mean, thank God, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I guess the justification that I could hear someone else say is, well, I'll go to that AA meeting, but that doesn't mean X, Y, or Z. And so I am not going to go because it's not worth it. For you, it was worth it.
It was definitely worth it. You know what's weird is I was AA ignorant. I mean, I had a DUI. I was supposed to go to AA, the sentence. And when I got that DUI, I was like, I got the sentence to go. I was like, AA, that's for losers. I'm never going to go. It's like, forget that. But I didn't know anything about AA, which was probably good. I was completely AA ignorant when I went into the meeting. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know anything about any of the customs and the format or anything like that. I just kind of showed up and, here we are.
31 years later, how often do you still go to those meetings?
I go to AA meetings probably about 3 to 5 times a month. I don't go very much, but what I do is I'm involved in a offshoot of Alcoholics Anonymous called Hospitals and Institutions. And Hospitals and Institutions is what we do is we take AA meetings to people who can't get to meetings. So these are the incarcerated, these are the mentally ill, these are people who are in jail or prisons or things like that. So we go in and we take meetings to those guys. And I've been doing that for 25 years. And that's where I get my, that's where I get my mojo. I love that. I love trying to help people that maybe need the help, but can't get out to get it.
Does that strengthen you to be the leader of those kind of groups?
The sponsors I've had in the past did that. And they told me, they suggested, hey, if the people who do hospitals and institutions work, you do it, you may not ever see those guys again. Like they might, they get out of prison, they get out of jail, you never see them again, you never see them in the area, I don't know. But it's like, it's purely giving. Because I can't, I'll know if I don't see them again, there's not much they could do for me. But the hidden gem in the whole thing is by helping them anonymously or however, I'm helping myself. So
right. And we all need a mission and a purpose. And I like to think at this stage in my life that this particular podcast is my purpose. What's your purpose?
Right now, I think it's probably being the best husband and father I could be at this time. I think that's pretty much it. That's and obviously staying sober, but those 3 things are those are the most important things in my life.
Okay. Husband and father. And so you tell me about your woman. She how many times does she throw beer at you and tell you you're an asshole?
She hasn't done that yet. My wife is she's awesome. I mean, she's a stepmother to my daughter. We've been together for like 12 years and married for 5. And she's just rock solid woman, man. I mean, she's perfect.
I'm married to one of those. I don't know what's wrong with her. I think she's got bad eyesight, but she keeps me around for some reason. What's her one greatest quality?
Patience.
Okay.
Yeah, she's patient. I'm not the easiest person, and she just lets me do whatever I need to do. Doesn't really question much. And I'm home for dinner, and she's and I think it's acceptance. You know what I mean? Like I come to her and I got a child, and I'm a sober alcoholic, and she's like, yeah, there's enough of me for her to want to be around, regardless of anything else. And she's just solid. She's just a solid road dog for me, man, big time.
Nice. What's the one thing that she does for you that you need the most?
Availability. She's always there when I need her. No matter what it is, she's 100% there.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's hard to do too.
Well, I mean, I'm talking emotionally, I'm talking physically, I'm talking spiritually. I mean, she's just rock solid best friend kind of type thing. And, I couldn't ask for more.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, and that's something that a lot of us guys are completely without, is somebody that to be there emotionally and spiritually and all that. So is she the kind of person that, let's say you had well, I wouldn't be thinking of divorce, but let's say that you were thinking of, heading to, yeah, it can't be anything sex related because you wouldn't go to her for that. Let's go to the drink. If you're, let's say you feel like you just have this crazy craving, you need a vodka. Is she the person you go to for that?
Yeah, she would. Yeah. I don't know if I would go to her for advice, like, because if it was alcohol related, I'd probably go to my sponsor, but I would definitely bring her in the loop about what's going on. And if she had some advice for me, I would definitely listen. But when it comes to the drinking and stuff, obviously a sober alcoholic, we hit up our sponsors pretty much.
Right.
Quickly.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it's helpful that you've got your sponsor, because if, then you do have somebody to talk to in that category. Let's say that your wife was not your wife and you were married perhaps to one of, let's actually make you, let's bring you back in time to when you were married to a woman who was much less awesome.
Okay.
And you're still an alcoholic and you still got your sponsor and you're thinking of a divorce because things are not good.
Okay. Well, I mean, I could just give you my experience on that because
Yeah, you've been there.
I've been there. So, let's see, 2000. I married my son's mother in 2003.
Okay.
And, she came with all the bells and whistles. She was, a beautiful woman, la, 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 came with the son. But about almost exactly two years in, maybe a little bit under 2 years in, she got a little, the things kind of different. And I had helped her get through college, and financially and obviously supporting and babysitting and all that with the boy, all
Right.
that. Wasn't really babysitting because my son, but and then she wanted to go to take a trip to celebrate her graduation.
Right.
When she went to celebrate the trip for graduation, she met a dude on this vacation that I paid for.
Nice.
So that was exciting. But I didn't know it at the time. I just know things are weird at the house when she got back. I'm like, this is fucking weird, man. And so I did a little detective work and I found out that there was some communications with a person in the area code where she went. And I was like, all right. So then I confronted her on it. And keep in mind, like, I've been through breakups before. I've been through many girlfriend breakups throughout the years.
Right.
I mean, dozens. And they said they all suck, but this is I waited a long time to get married. I was in my my late 40s. It was like I was never going to be married. I was just going to have all these girlfriends. Life's going to be fun. But so I married this person. So I thought it was forever. I was down for that, And so when I found out about the dude, I was completely blindsided and crushed, like emotionally. Like, what? Wait a minute, me? Like, do you know who I am? It's like, WTF? Like, I couldn't fathom that. Like, I couldn't get it. And stuff like that's happened to me before, but I've never been married through it. It's like girlfriend stuff, which is
Totally different.
It's a different level for me. Maybe
right.
It's so it was super painful. So I was I don't remember, it was a Saturday morning maybe. And when I found out, I think it was a Saturday morning. I don't know the date or anything, but it was a Saturday, or maybe it was a Sunday, but it was a weekend day. And I couldn't get a hold of my sponsor because he was whatever he was doing, he was busy. I got a hold of another guy in AA. And I met him in the morning. He goes, meet me at this restaurant right now. Just drive over there. So I met him and I was like, just pouring my guts out. And he says, you know what you need? I go, no, I don't. He goes, you need some therapy. And have you been to therapy before? Like, therapy?
That's
No.
for losers.
Well, it's like, I never considered it. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. Kind of like AA was for losers.
You should talk to this woman. He sent me, and he, where I live, there's therapists, but they're all busy. Like so, but this person got me in, and what sucked is like I found out my wife's cheating on me, and then I got to go perform like 2 shows, like not out of town, but far enough away. And I'm like, dude, I didn't want to be away from home. You know what I mean? It was like I had to go perform for, you know, hundreds of people playing drums and like try to be happy about it. I wasn't happy about it, man. I was freaking miserable, you know. But you know, show must go on, as everybody says. So they did. So then I'm like, I got my sponsor involved. I got a couple close friends involved, and like I'm just a mess. Like I am an emotional mess. I got my mom involved. I'm leaning on everybody that's close to me, and I am like I'm miserable, and nobody's ever seen me like this because I'm, you know, I'm Ray Rocha, man. I mean, this shit doesn't, you know, he's the solid emotional rock that we all go to, and I'm like I'm a mess.
So you got friends that go to you, and it sounds like you've got friends that you can go to.
Sure.
You went to your sponsor, and that's always helpful. But it sounds like you also had friends where you felt like you were able to go to them and say, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to get a divorce."
I leaned hard on some friends, you know, and they were really helpful. You know, these guys, some of these guys were married, some of them were not married, you know, but um, and you know, the thing that I really realized, I didn't get a lot of advice. Like I didn't get the, you know, but basically I got like the main advice was try not to make it worse. You know, like just try not to make it worse because you know you don't want to blow up and F you and whatever. So I did that, but mainly the thing that was important for me, they just listened. Like they just listened and gave me hugs and said, you know, you're gonna be all right. It's gonna be okay. Just don't make it worse and just do what's right in front of you. Like whatever the next thing is. I'm like, what does that mean? I go, well, if your son needs to eat, you're gonna make him something to eat. If you need to go to work, you're gonna get up and go to work. If you're gonna, you know, just keep doing what you're supposed to be doing. And you know, in Alcoholics Anonymous, there's a lot of higher power, and there's a lot of prayer and spirituality involved. So I've always done that. So I continue to do that. You know, some of those prayers were stupid. You know, it's like, dude, what the fuck? What? Why me? You know, this bullshit. You know, but I was the therapy helped out immensely, and you know, I don't. I've only been to the one therapist like that for I think I mean for years. We had a therapy client relationship for probably 12 years. You know,
Wow.
starting with that thing. You know,
Yeah.
so
So
go
what I'm
ahead.
seeing is, you know, for a while. So let's start with you being an alcoholic. Um, then you marry the woman who is like going to be your forever woman, and she levels you. Uh, and I'm speaking through my own brain because this is what I would do to myself. Is what I have done to myself. It would be, well, you know, I uh, I'm X, I'm Y, I'm Z. I might as well just go drive off a cliff. Did that moment ever happen to you?
No, well, that kind of thinking doesn't. I don't get that. I get um, solution oriented. Like, what do I have to do to? And this could involve a bunch of things. It could be talking to people. It could be going for walks. It could be going to the gym. It could be playing my drums. It could be a bunch of things. Like what do I need to do to make myself feel better? To make myself, I'm gonna say whole again, but to make just to be able to live with this emotional craziness that I'm feeling. You know, you get that hole in your stomach, man, and it's like, you, well, nothing really fills it. You know, it's like you just. Um, I did all those things. I stayed in contact with the friends, you know, and then you know, they kept me busy. You know, I mean, I had to live with this person for like another few months before I could get him out and divorce him. You know, it's like that was odd.
Uh-huh.
But the support from my friends and from the program of Alcoholics Anonymous and the therapy, slow, you know, we're talking months, maybe a year, kind of just made me feel better, but it wasn't it was not an inside job. It wasn't like just me by myself bearing through it. I
Could you
needed the
have
support of
done?
a bunch of network. The network was, it was big and diverse.
Yeah, I think you're both lucky and blessed because of the network you've described. You got a lot of dudes that were there and willing to help you. And based on the interviews and personal experience, the rest of us really have one if we're lucky, and usually zero people that we'll go to with the deep, dark, uh, sad sludge that happens in life.
Yeah, and I have that inclination, like I can fix it. You know, I can
Uh-huh.
I can get through this. Of course I can. I'm a man, and I can handle this.
And men
And
fix, and you fixed it.
yeah, and there was this was beyond anything that I could even begin to fix. And it was I wasn't. There was a little bit of fear involved, because you're going to have your best friend who knows you as this drummer and whatever dude, and all of a sudden it's like, you know, I'm like emotionally crawling to the guy and letting it out. And the scary part is the letting it out part. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, dude, I need help. Like, please, I need help. What I found is that I got help. You know what I mean? If I get the message out to my friends or to whomever, that a lot of people, and surprisingly people that maybe you wouldn't think of right away, were willing to help because they generally care. They generally care about us. Like I mean, the old suggestion I have is if you're fearful of asking for help, I mean, getting past that's key, because the surprising part is people want to help.
People do want to help. And, I was talking to you before we started recording this podcast about my son has a friend who recently committed suicide. He went down to Lake Powell and hung himself from the houseboat. And here's a guy who I don't know anything about his marriage. I've met the guy because I went and bought some stuff from his store, but I don't remember what he was. But whatever his issues were, he had money. That wasn't it. And he was former military, and so he probably has some of that PTSD. Interestingly enough, and as a sidelight, I understand that a lot of former military people, if they commit suicide, it won't be with a gun. And that's a whole different subject to look at. But Corey, my son, he told me, if the dude had issues, if he would have just come to me, I would have loved to have been there for him. That's the reason I'm telling this story is, we all like to think that we're alone and that we're problem solvers. We can handle anything. And then I've been in that place where it's like, oh, this is above my head. And I thought I was a problem solver, but this one, I can't. And then most of us have or give ourselves nobody. And it sounds like you did better than that. You were a drummer. Sounds like maybe the guy that you went to was in your band.
No, those band guys are kind of flighty, man. No, I went. I had the band I worked for is one of my best friends. I had one of the guys that I know their names, but I had another guy that I met at my like second or third AA meeting, and we're still friends. And both of us, we kind of staggered our marriage and divorces. Like I need help and he's doing good, so he helped me. And then he's going through his divorce, and I help. So and my mom was very supportive through the whole thing. She was solid, and then the therapist and my sponsor. It was maybe about 6 or 7 people who were just really on the phone and, dude, what do you need? Did you eat today? What did you eat today? Or stuff like that, because it was pretty rough. But, it passed. You know what I mean? I mean, I never wanted to be a divorced guy. I wanted, I never wanted to do that. But it passed, and then here I am now, now my second wife is, obviously an upgrade.
Oh, very much an upgrade. Well, I don't know if I was lucky or what it was, but when I remarried, I feel like I knew what I wanted. In my case, I just wanted to be loved, and I found that, and it worked. And my goodness, she's
That's
a
great.
she's a
Right on.
perfect woman.
Right on.
So you mentioned having those moments where you've got emptiness in the gut, and and I've been there too. But was that your lowest moment? What was your lowest moment in your life?
Well, that was one. There's three. I have three moments. In 1984, I was still drinking, and my dad was dying of cancer, and he died at home with I had moved out and I lived with him in Hollywood, and he died at home with I get to watch him take his last breath, which was a gift. I didn't realize it at the time because I was drunk,
Mm-hmm.
but that was low. But back then I had no coping skills except drugs and alcohol. So that from 84 to when I got sober was pretty much dark. And
Yeah,
then
I've got another guy I interviewed, Todd Nielsen, good dude, and he was a former cop, I believe, in Anaheim,
mhm,
and he would do drugs, prostitution, and human trafficking.
uh-huh.
So he said he came home one day after having rescued a bunch of 6-year-olds from sex slavery, and he told his wife, and she goes, "Too dark. I can't handle it. Don't tell me about that." So he
Yeah.
turned to his next best friend, and that was Jack Daniels.
Um, yeah, it wasn't my dad's fault. I mean, cancer, he died. I just didn't know. I didn't know. I drank over that for years. Like, oh, poor me, my dad died. It was a good excuse to get drunk. Us alcoholics are always looking for an excuse. You know,
Uh-huh.
the other second darkest was that divorce with my first wife. That whole situation there. And then the third was when my mom passed, which was in 2013, and that was the same thing. I was there for her to watch her take her last breath at my sister's house, and that was really rough. But you know, I had gone through those feelings with my dad drunk, and I was less than helpful to anybody who needed me.
Oh yeah. I mean, at the point that you had nothing to give, you were just a taker.
So compared to when my mom passed, where now I've been sober at 2013, I think I had 20 years or something, and I was able to be the helpful person. I was able to be the solid, uh, grounded, uh, helpful person in that situation. So it was like, I had both sides of that. It's like, I'm absolutely not going to do what I did last time.
Right.
So those three are probably the pretty darkest times.
Of those, I think I know which one of those you're going to say was probably hardest. I'm guessing it was probably harder for you to see your mom go because you didn't have the alcohol to turn to. But which of those three was hardest for you?
Honestly, it was the divorce, and because that was a blind side. My mom was dying. There was expectations there. My dad had cancer for a year, so both of those, the one and I forgot there's a fourth one too, but the blindsidedness of that divorce was that one probably is a little bit higher. But the fourth one, which is the most important, really, is that when my daughter's mother decided to take her out of state, and that whole stretch of time there where I had to go to court and fight and all that, and that emotionalness when I'm watching my daughter get on a plane and go to a different state and not really knowing when I'm going to see her again, that was pretty brutal.
Oh man, yeah, I can imagine the nuclear bombs that were used.
That was rough.
during that period. Which one would you say was lower then of those two moments?
Well, the lower was the daughter. I'm sure that daughter leaving was that was tough. It was 2011,
Mhm.
2010, 2011. It was rough.
Yeah, and so your daughter would have been three-ish,
Yeah.
two.
Well, what happened was, she was a surprise to the both of us, and I was going
Uh-huh.
to try and make her. My I had no emotional ties to her mother anymore.
Right.
At the time of her birth, and I went through all the prenatal stuff that the co-parent would do. I did all that, all the OBGYN stuff. I did all that, went to all the meetings and all the ultrasounds and all that. I was invested in my daughter before she was born. And then, out pops this beautiful, girl. And so we're co-parenting as best we can in my house. And it's just, it is less than ideal, but I'm ready to sacrifice anything for my daughter. Like, okay, I could live weird for a while, as long as I could be near and help raise my daughter. Like I'm down for weird, but because weird's not going to trump watching baby take her first steps, it just doesn't. So, you know, and then behind my back, she had been making plans to move out of state, and, had already rented an apartment, had a job. She had the daughter's mother had family there too, so she had a place to go that was going to help her. And of course, talking trash about me, what a loser I am, blah blah blah. And so when I found out that she was had planned to move, I was out of my mind. I didn't know what to do. And my therapist told me to get a lawyer. Like, you need to get a lawyer and just just talk to them and see. So I did that, and I'm out of my realm. I'm a musician. I'm a salesperson. I don't know anything about the family courts or anything like that. I learned a lot in the 7 years I've been fighting, but it was an uphill struggle. I mean, they let her go. They kept her here for another 2 months while the court was going through, but they let her go. That was brutal.
What state did she move to?
Texas.
Texas. So she's moving from California to Texas.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I'm guessing you're all about your daughter, and she's your life, she's your purpose. And here goes the crazy ex, and she's completely ripping your daughter away from your life. That
Yeah,
that had to been.
that was brutal. But again, I tried to do what was suggested as the next important thing. Like, okay, so the way the paperwork read is that I could go to Texas whenever I want with 2 weeks notice, and my daughter's mother has to give me as much time as I'm there for with my daughter uninterrupted. So Mr. Rocha, I'm like, okay. So I found a rental house in Texas
Right.
near where they moved at the time. The daughter's mother ended up moving 10 times. I mean, she's just not stable, but at the time I found a place that was within a couple miles of where they were currently living. I rented it over the phone, rented it online, sent them on sight unseen, and just started saving money and going to Texas, saving money and going to Texas. So I had to pay for everything, every flight, everything like that. There was no help from the mother. And when my daughter would come to California, there was no help from her either. She would refuse to help with the pay. She's supposed to pay half the flights, whatever. Never saw a penny. So I just put all my extra money, completely ran through my savings to just go back and forth and see my daughter in Texas. And I would get since I'm a sales rep and I'm 100% commission based. For me, I was fortunate because as long as my numbers were good, there was no oversight about where I was and all that. I mean, obviously I told everybody where I was, but there was no concern like, hey man, you're going backwards on your sales here. That never happened. I was always just exceeding and doing well, which was good because I had to pay for a lot of freaking flights to Texas. I went to Texas about 24 times in 6 years.
Yeah, and so that's 4 times a year. That's flights, that's the rental you got to keep. And what I found when I was doing my own divorce is that my kids, they had a life at the ex-wife's house. You know, I let the ex-wife have the house. And so they had friends there. They had things they were comfortable with. They had, the games or whatever that were normal for them. And then they come to my little apartment. It's a 1-bedroom apartment. There's a small living room, and they've got nothing. And they're like, "Well, what are we going to do when we're with you? You're boring." I would imagine it was the same for you. You go to Texas, you've got your daughter for a week or whatever, and she goes, "Well, now I'm with you. Now what?" And then you kind of have to become the Disneyland dad and spend a bunch of money that you don't have.
Well, keep in mind, she was from 2 years to 8 years.
Uh-huh.
So I went there during school when she was at school, and I would take her to school and then wait her out and go do whatever, something in Texas for 6 hours and then pick her up from school. So I went, there was no, I went whenever I could. And since the way the documents read, I couldn't be denied any visits, as long as I gave her the proper notice that I go to your house, I'll pick up the kid. I was like, you can't say no. And that part her mother did. But what I did was we were outdoors all the time. We
Uh-huh.
we were outdoors. We're gonna go hiking. We're gonna go walking. We're gonna go fishing. I mean, I kept her because that stuff's cheap. It's like you go for a walk on a trail. It doesn't cost a penny. You got to buy some waters and take your time. So I
Right.
just kept her busy doing stuff, and she was never the way the daughter's mother ended up being in a relationship with a dude, and they lived out in the boondocks. So they weren't in like a setting where there's a lot of houses nearby where she had a lot of friends nearby. So I didn't have to compete with the friends because she didn't really have any, just because of geography. And I still took her to school. So when dad came to town, I just had all kinds of things planned. Like, I mean, it wasn't necessarily financial things. It was just, well, what are we doing, Dad? We're gonna go hike over here. We're gonna go fishing over here. I just kept her busy, and what that did was and the commitment to going, and so my relationship with her was strong. We had a really tight relationship. She's daddy's girl, and when it came time to when her mother kind of dropped the parenting ball, as best I could say it, and I started fighting for custody. I had a strong relationship with my daughter already. That started when she was 7 and 8 and 9, I should say, when I started to really go for custody. I had been to court 5 other times, just trying to get more time. I want longer summer instead of 2 weeks. I wanted her in California more. I had to fight for all that. And as any man will tell you in family court, it's an uphill fight.
Yeah. Theoretically, the courts look at men and women as 50-50, but the reality is men rarely win.
Rarely. I mean, yeah.
So yeah, I'm thinking one benefit of that very poor situation is that your daughter knows that you will kill yourself and save money left and right so that you can fly halfway across the country for her.
Yeah, and Garth, sometimes the actions speak louder than the words. And what I mean in this particular instance is that although my daughter's mother had family there, that family witnessed my commitment. They saw to the lengths that I would go to keep a relationship with my daughter. And through years of that, when it came time to go for custody, they had they came over to my side of the fence and actually came to court and testified for me against their own
Family.
daughter and sister. So
Wow.
it was sometimes doing the right thing. You do it because you want to do it. You do it, but there's like that's a side benefit of that I never saw coming.
Well,
I mean,
and
it still
I
blows
saw
me
that.
away.
I saw that too. You know, when I did the divorce, I was painted very dark, and I could argue with it, but those are just words, and words mean nothing if you're Satan. Uh,
Exactly.
so my wife just told me, you know, wait it out. It'll be years, but they'll see what's going on at some point, and you know, it won't be today, it won't be next week, but it'll come. And I believe that has occurred.
Definitely.
So you said it sounded like your lowest moment was the day that you found out that your daughter was being ripped away from you. At least that's what it felt like.
Yep.
Here's my question: why was that a gift and a blessing for you?
Well, I guess as a gift and a blessing, what it did was it made me hyper focused on what was important in my life, which was her. So it made her, although I have all these other things in my life, you know, relationship with my then girlfriend, now wife, my band, my job, my friend network, Alcoholics Anonymous. It hyper focused me on what do I want to do with her, and that allowed me to take the necessary actions to keep that relationship, which I guess which looking down the road, I couldn't see it at the time, allowed me to end up having custody of her living with me in California. It just it made not painfully, it made it obvious that my role as the father of this daughter was more important and the
Than
most
anything
important
else.
thing, probably besides my sobriety, because without that I got nothing. But it really just came to the top of the heap and said, look, dude, this is what you're living for. Through that pain, I got that focus.
Yeah, that's, and I think it showed you some things, and I think it showed your daughter some things. Um, Again, before we got started, I asked you about your daughter, but let's tell these million guys who are listening. Let's tell them. Describe your daughter for me again.
Well, she's 13. She's like 5 foot. I don't even know. It's like 6. She's this giant kid. She's just got a super strong friend network. She's in her 4th year of school in my area, in the school district that she's been. So she's got a bunch of friends, got a great friend network. She's definitely plugged in here big time. She does great grades, you know, no discipline problems at all. And you know, with the support of my wife, I mean, we feel like we're raising a pretty good kid, you know, and
Beautiful, well-adjusted friends, grades.
Yeah.
She's got it, and she has been through some ugliness.
Well, yeah, when she was with her mother, there were some things going on there that were not healthy. So, you know, the fun thing that what's looking back, it's somewhat humorous, but when I won custody in court that day, August 4th, 2018, the courtroom was fairly empty. My wife was there. Our wedding anniversary is August 5th, 2017, the day before our wedding anniversary. Lawyer for me, mother's on Zoom. Everybody, when the judge was awarding me custody, everybody in the courtroom was crying. I'm talking bailiff, court reporter, my wife, myself, my lawyer. The only person who wasn't was the judge. And when I told, so when I told my daughter that the next day that she was already here for the summer, she was in California for the summer already. So when I told her that there was a big struggle to who's going to tell her, and I'm like, well, I'm in charge now, so I'm going to tell her. But anyway, she asked all these questions like, can I have a cat? Can I decorate my bedroom? All these questions, like just real day-to-day stuff.
Uh-huh.
And the last question, she goes, oh yeah, Dad. I'm like, yeah. She goes, when do I get to see my mom next? That was the last question. Like that wasn't like in the front, like, when am I going to see my mom? I'm going to miss my mom. It was the last thing. And I told her, this is when you're gonna. She said, okay. And that was it. So, she made it easy too for the big change. She made it easy for me as a dad to like, if I had to fight her on that emotionally, that would have been a struggle.
That would have been a struggle. Yeah. If she had wanted to stay with her mom, that would have been difficult. And
Yeah,
I think
but
the difference is that she knew how much she'd sacrificed.
well, and at that age, I don't know if she was aware of the sacrifice, Garth. Maybe she was, but she had an intuitiveness about what is safe and what is stable. And
Right.
I'm in the same house. She's had the same room for since she was born. Everything's same here. It's like over there they moved like a bunch of times. There's never any stability. Men coming and going. It's a mess. So I think maybe that was part of it too.
Got it. Yeah. Well, whatever your secret sauce is, and I think I have some ideas, but you were able to create a stable, happy, loving, successful, capable kid in the midst of a war zone,
Yeah,
and that says some things. Uh, that it gives the rest of us hope. I know that when I was considering my divorce, I was talking to somebody over the internet. I was playing internet spades, and I developed a couple of relationships with random people. And one of them, I said, told them I'm thinking of doing this divorce, and in this case, it was a she. She goes, well, if you can keep the kids out of the war zone, you'll be much better off. And I thought, well, I can do that, and that's not how it turned out.
hmm,
Uh, but um, you did it different and better than me. So congratulations on that. I think we can all take some lessons from you on how it gets done. Uh,
oh,
you have talked about how that lowest moment was a blessing for you. It's amazing to me, Ray, that that is a question that I would expect to be impossible. That's a loser question. I ask guys what their lowest moment is, and then I ask them why it was a blessing for them. And my first thought is, why would you ask a crazy, stupid question like that? Because nobody's going to be able to answer that. But the answer is always very inspiring, and yours is as well. You said to your lowest moment that's when you became crystal clear on what was important to you, and it focused your life.
absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's so admirable. Um, let's take I'm 62. How old are you?
61.
61. Oh, you're a spring chicken then. Um, let's go you back to your lowest moment when your daughter is about to be ripped away from you, and you don't know if or how often you'll ever see her again. She's your center and your soul and your meaning and purpose. And now somebody's telling you kiss her goodbye. Uh, what are you going to tell the Ray of a few years previous? You got a time machine. You're going back to him. What are you going to tell that guy?
I mean, like, what am I going to tell me then?
Yes.
I don't know. I mean,
let's go it back then. Because I think you probably had all the tools then that you have now, which is why you succeeded. Let's go you back to being the teenage alcoholic. And you can pick the moment, whether it was your mom, whether it was your dad dying while you were an alcoholic, or your mom.
I got a lot to say to that dude.
Yeah, let's talk to that dude then.
Well, I would tell him that don't be a victim.
Interesting.
I say, you're not a victim here, because for a long time I thought that, I was victimized by my dad getting cancer and dying. If I think that way, that makes it about me, and it's not about me. My dad had a timetable, and that when it was time for him to go, he went. It had nothing to do with me. But I ran as a victim for a few years. So I would tell myself, dude, don't be a victim over that. And it had nothing to do with you. I would also tell that dude that no matter how much booze and dope that you do, that's not the answer to deal with the feelings that you're having. The answer to deal with the feelings that you're having is to try to talk to somebody. I wrote a lot of letters to my dad. I wrote a lot of letters to myself as that kid, as that guy, when I got sober. I would tell that dude that you're 24. You're 24 years old. You have a lot of life ahead of you. You have a lot of life ahead of you, and great things are going to happen for you. Just be ready. I would tell that dude that too.
And be ready means don't be an alcoholic. What does be ready mean?
Well, be ready could mean a bunch of things. It means be optimistic. To a door opening that you may not think you want to go through or need to go through. It means don't be rigid. Don't be stuck in your ways. Great change could happen. It could come in many forms. Be ready. I would say, and I would also tell that person, like, what you're going through may be able to help someone else down the road, and that has happened also. So those are a few things I tell that guy.
Yeah,
freaking slap him.
Slap him. You throw a beer at him and tell him he's an asshole,
dude.
Only maybe.
I ran on those feelings for 6 years after that. You know what I mean? Like, it took me that, finally it changed.
Yeah. And it changed. What was the switch that got flipped? Was it your mom throwing beer at you?
Probably so. I mean, just going to that first meeting, I went to that first meeting and like I said, I never planned on being the sober guy. The sober guy's a loser. I never planned on being that guy. I just was not in my playbook, man. I was just going to party hardy and, whatever happens. And, but I think just going to that meeting, however I got there, that I went and continued to go. Like I said, I don't tell people I'm never going to drink again. I don't know. I'm just going to keep doing what I was doing to get here, and I'll probably be okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. What I've heard you say is that sober guys are losers. Guys who go to AA are losers. Guys who go to psychiatrists. You didn't say this directly, but I'm choosing to interpret that way. They're losers. Let's be losers. Let's just be losers and do the right thing.
Dude, asking for help is never where I grew up. Similarly to many men, you just didn't ask for help, and I did not ask for help until for emotional help or support. Until, I asked for money plenty of times, right? But until I was like sober and knew that, and someone had to tell me that that's okay. Someone had to tell me it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to ask for emotional support. It's okay to share your feelings You're not going to get chastised or whatever. People want to help. I had to, that, that wasn't in my learning playbook in high school or in my 20s. Nobody told me that, you know. I had to go to like, I mean, I have to go to AA to find this out. Okay, fine. But not everybody needs AA. And for those dudes, it's like, dude, it's okay to ask. I mean, you know, we need help.
Yeah, I think the losers are the guys who are alcoholics and know they can't fix it themselves, and they are too afraid or too whatever to be willing to admit that they need to go to AA. Those are the losers for me.
Yeah, I mean, they've just made their life a little more challenging. You know, that's all. You just made the life harder.
Yeah.
But we don't know that while we're drinking.
We're
okay.
Because we all need our life to be harder, right?
No doubt.
So let's you and I have been best friends for thousands of years. Let's briefly describe how I got to know you and how long I've known you.
Well, thousands of years. And how do we get to know each other after thousands of years? I would say we met via the internet.
Yeah, Father's Rights Group.
For the Father's Rights Group. And I would say that it doesn't matter how you meet people. Is that if you meet good people, they're good people. And that I would be grateful for having you in my life for that time.
Yeah. So yeah, we met in that group, and you indicated an interest to do this interview, and I met you at the same I met you an hour ago when you came on this Zoom, and you've got a lot, you've got a lot to teach all of us, including me. I realized that if I would have been as dedicated to my daughters as you, my life would have been easier as well. So thank you.
Right on. You're welcome. I'm glad to be here.
All right, I'll cut it there. Great interview, dude.
Right on. Yeah, thanks. I had fun. Good questions.
Yeah.
You stumped me a couple times, but I definitely enjoyed it, and give me something to think about for the rest of the day. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll let you know